How are you? Ooh,
I'm
ooh,
doing fine. How about you?
I'm well, thank you.
Oh, you
Like
just came
those.
in, right?
I just what?
You just popped in.
I just popped in. Yes,
Yeah, just like me. Just
I've
like
not been.
5 minutes home.
I've not been waiting. Yeah, no, I
How
haven't.
are you? It's a long time.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. So podcasting, doing my own stuff, getting shit done, as I would
Yeah,
say.
getting shit done.
Yep, I did, and I still do. So
Good.
my course that I have is still well, it's getting more and more people that going to get in, so that's good.
That's brilliant news.
Yeah, and that all about where we met at the business accelerator, right?
Exactly.
So what happened to your life after that?
So when was that again? I'm trying to think.
2019, the end of
29
2019, I think.
2019, was it? I'm trying to remember back. But it feels like so bloody long ago, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So yeah, since then there's been quite a few things going on, but really like launching my business and getting that off the ground and propelling that has been the main thing.
wow.
So it's been an exciting journey, but 2019 was like lockdown, wasn't it? So like, yeah, God, I don't
Yeah,
actually. I think I just launched my business then. It wasn't actually in full swing or anything. So yeah, lots has happened in answer to your question. As I'm sure it has for you as well. So
yeah, it's bumpy road. Make a little
bumpy
bit
road.
bumpy road sometimes, yeah, but yeah, in life you need that, right? I'm gonna set up my camera a
Ups
little bit
and
more
downs.
properly.
I love it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take some pictures of us. Do you mind if I take some photography, some pictures
No, no, please do.
to promote?
So my hair is good, right?
Is your hair right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great. This is gonna be a fun chat. So what tell me what you most want to get out of this as well, so that I'm aware.
Um, doing the things that you have to do, like putting up the marketing, putting up the website. We worked with Squarespace at that time,
Yeah.
and it was something that I figured out a little bit, but not that much. And as Brian said to us, it's just like, just do the stuff that we're going to tell you, and it's going to be okay. And so, yeah, doing all that stuff, and eventually, when I had my course, I did the webinars that they expected that we should do. So I
Yeah.
did that, and that was kind of strange for me because it was talking to someone, well, in front of you but not with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was anxiety was popping up and stuff like that. But I really was very glad to do that because I knew from the course how it's built up, that all the things, when you do these steps, you could get success. And just like that, you could get success. I tweaked it a little bit more for myself with the things I learned throughout the years. And yeah, but it was really great. It was a great fun time.
See, I'm going to be really honest here. I didn't complete the course.
Okay.
I also didn't really do what I was told. I got a lot of learnings from it, and it definitely helped me put that, like, in fact, I set up my business off the back of it, right? So it helped me put things in motion.
Hmm.
However, I wasn't in the right place at the time
Mm.
to really do the exercises and activities that were set out. And social media has been my nemesis. It's
Oh.
like, get me on stage, right? And I can, that's my like playground. Get me in a meeting room, get me on stage. But like social media has been my recent nemesis. So it's just like, that for me has been one that I'm now conquering. I'm trying to figure it out still, to be quite honest.
Hmm.
And it's quite an interesting, it's a new playground, but I don't want to be, and it's something that would be quite interesting to discuss, right? I think, like, at the moment we're sold this like lifestyle, aren't we? We keep
Mm,
being told like how we should be and how we should act. And I don't think that it's, you know, it's very authentic. I think I look on social media and people are all doing the same things. And
mhm.
I think that's where I differentiate in my coaching is it's really about like who are you? Like
Exactly.
what does it mean to be you? And like having a little go at different techniques and different styles, but it comes back to you. And I don't want you to be like everybody else. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to be like everybody else on social media. I just want you to be you.
Yeah. Is that a journey that you when you started you had to figure out who you are? What you
100%. Yes. Like literally it's been my life mission is that really. It's like finding like that's my two things. It's like finding out my narrative, my story, and just owning it. I believe you become unfuckable
Mhm.
when you own your story because it's like that's actually your value, isn't it? Really, if you look back and you look at all the things that you've happened to you, you've experienced, all the people, all the things, it's made you who you are today, and that's what if you can tell that story in an effective way, it's what gives you value, it's what gives you purpose. And
Mm.
then secondly, to that is when we start to look back at our story, we start to actually uncover some behaviors and traits in ourselves that we potentially need healing. So that's when I got into NLP and hypnosis, and I had it done to me, and it worked so well that I was like, wow, I really need to add this string to my bow because this could
Uh-huh.
take my coaching to a whole new level.
Oh
So
yeah.
now that's what I do to help heal people. So it's not just about like owning your narrative, but it's also about like actually, knowing who you are as a
Mhm.
person. And my healing journey now helps other people on their own healing journey. It's exciting.
Wow. I'm gonna introduce you, Kay. So welcome to Disorganized Productions. I'm very happy to have you as a guest. Today we have an international speaker. She's a coach, and she knows the power of storytelling. And without any further ado, please welcome Kay Munday. Please tell me a little bit about you, Kay.
Yeah, firstly, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super grateful. I love being given these opportunities to speak and to share a bit about myself and my story, and perhaps hopefully provide some thought provoking things for any listeners out there. So, I'm Kay Munday. I'm a communications coach and storyteller, and I help people and brands tell their stories. So, it's really about owning their narrative and mastering the art of fearless communication.
Wow. And you travel around the world, right?
Well, yeah, I'd like to travel more. That would be great. That'd be great. But
So
I do. I'm lucky that I get some great gigs abroad as well every now and then. So I've been to Dubai recently, to Mexico, to Portugal, all sorts. Oh, Scotland! Can't forget Scotland.
oh wow, sounds good.
Exactly. So there are, yeah, it's great that I do get some abroad opportunities as well.
Uh, and what was your journey to get there where you are now? So that it comes from because I was digging into a little bit of uh, what's on your website and stuff like that. I figured out that you hated to speak in public.
That's right. That is right. Let me take you back. I'm going to introduce you to Katie.
Hmm.
So Katie was what I was known as when I was little, and she was this incredibly shy, very introverted, and dyslexic child. And I grew up in a family that, I'm going to be honest, but communication wasn't really our forte. There was more shouting in terms of communicating rather
Hmm.
than talking about our feelings. So it made things pretty tough when I was growing up. And then I decided to rebrand and call myself Kate when I went to secondary school because I felt like that was a bit more business-like, bit more grown up, a bit more formal. So, and the thing is I was lost. I honestly, I didn't know who I was, and I think this is like a lot of kids and a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
But they also, on top of that, the fact that I didn't know how to communicate. So I had all of these big emotions going on. I had a bit of trauma early years and then didn't know how to speak about it. And this continued into adolescence, into then the working world as well, where I was trained as an actress when I was younger. My mum pushed me out the door to go and find my voice. And the thing was is then I learned how to put on a really good act. So I was like the show pony, class clown at school, but then I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to be authentically me. And
Mm.
this like really hindered me. I feel like when I was then at work and I had these ideas cropping up, I couldn't, I was, when you like want to put up your hand and say something, but you're like, oh, am I gonna sound stupid? I don't know. And like, and it really set me back. And then I started consulting, and I was in the advertising and marketing industry, and I needed to command rooms.
Mhm.
I needed to hold a space and show my presence. I was walking into boardrooms of directors of men who would turn, look at me, blonde young thing, and I was like, oh. So there was a lot of, I guess you would call, potentially failures. I think of them as learnings now. They're all good
Yeah.
learnings. But lots of times I fell on my face, and it just took me a lot of them to turn around and go, well, I really, really need to do something about this. And when I looked at it, all of the common denominators were communication.
Mm.
And if we think about it in terms of influencing our surroundings and getting what we want from life, it's the best way to do that is communication. So
That's
that's
the
why I dug deep.
Mhm.
I threw everything at it, all of my time, money, blood, sweat, tears. And I'm very grateful that I've had some amazing employers that have supported me. I've been working for Google for the past 10 years, and they've supported me throughout this whole journey.
Wow.
And I set up Toastmasters, which is a speaking platform for them 9 years ago. And the funny thing is, I think that when you do something like that and you set up a speaking platform, I think that they just assume that you're a really good speaker. They just think you set up a speaking platform, you must be great at speaking. And at the time, I don't think that was necessarily true. So then I started getting all these opportunities where departments were coming to me saying, "Oh, can you come and, train
Yeah.
our team?" And I was just like taking it. I was just like, "Yes, yeah, okay, we'll have a go." Figuring
Wow.
it out as I went. I was getting trained myself. So then I
Mhm.
started to take those learnings, package them up, and teach others. And teaching is the best form of learning, really. It's
Oh,
the best
yeah.
form of doing. But as I was teaching, what I wasn't doing is, so I've been helping coach others to tell their stories for years.
Uh-huh.
Years and years and years. But what I'd kind of really missed was really telling my own story.
Huh.
So it's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that story about the gardener, the gardener who makes everybody else's gardens look really pretty, but then you go and look at their garden and it's a mess.
One wasteland.
Yes, right? So I can definitely relate to this story. And that was, yeah, myself. So, and it really took, so I think this is pretty known, but last year Google went through a round of redundancies, and it took that to kind of shake my foundations, where I was like, wow, we're not safe. Even when you do work for a big corporation like this, who do look after their employees really well,
Mhm.
you're never safe. So you've got to start investing in yourself. And if people don't know who you are and what you're about and what you're doing, then you could be let go of a company, and then you know people don't know what
What
you're
then?
about.
Yeah, exactly.
So
What
that's
then?
where last year and the last I started to do a rebrand myself.
Mhm.
So I actually renamed myself. So this was the transition from Kate to Kay,
Uh-huh.
which I now am known as Kay Munday. And it people keep asking me why.
That
And
was one of my questions too.
was it one of your good? I knew it was coming, so I just thought I'd address the elephant in the room up
Yeah,
front,
yeah.
right? Because when we met, I was Kate, but now I'm Kay, and it's because it just felt right. And this
Mm.
is it. You just got to do whatever feels right for you. And if I'm really honest, so I chose the name as Kate when I was
Mhm.
going into secondary school, and throughout that period of my life, I led with I led from my ego, if I'm honest, and also from a quite a masculine approach. And I
Mhm.
get it because this was me. I used to imitate my brother to get the attention and approval of my father. And now that I know myself and who I am and what I'm about, I don't need to play into that narrative anymore.
Mhm.
I'm happy to step into my feminine. And now that I understand communication, this is more of my style. It's more about this soft power leadership. And Kay just like, it just felt more right.
Ah,
So there you go.
it's
That was the
funny
rebrand.
because Kate sounds a little bit harder, right? And K makes it a little bit softer, which makes me, just like you said, a little bit more feminine and more to yourself. And
I think so. Yeah, that's
yeah,
how
it's
I
a
perceive it.
journey. And I think a lot of brands are struggling with that to have the right name. Um,
Mm,
I I started with the business accelerator at that time with Disorganized Productions, and well, stuff happened, and it was really great. But somehow, when I did my coaching, it didn't felt right. You know,
mm,
Disorganized Productions with coaching, it doesn't make any sense, right? So I rebranded it last year to Work in Progress,
nice.
which makes more sense. But Disorganized Production is still the stuff that I like to do. You know, talking to you on a podcast, making music, doing well, all sorts of stuff. And I want to ask you because um, information and communication are the ones that are big time for a company, for us as an individual, for relationships, you name it, right?
Mm,
And with communication, a lot of people struggle, and even a lot of brands and organizations struggle with that because somehow there's not enough communication, or, well, not enough, or not the good way to communicate with the other people, with the employees and stuff like that. Can you
mm.
tell a little bit more about how important it is to communicate on the right level, on the right on a right track, let's say that.
Well, I think this is, why is communication important? I think this is what you're alluding to. And,
Exactly.
if we think of all of the most successful people that you can think of in your life right now, or just generally, right? The common thing that they all have is they're all good communicators.
Hmm.
Communication is like seen as this soft skill, isn't it? But ironically, it's the most sought after skill in business, and it's the most sought looked for skill on a CV. But yet, 75% of our population suffer with some form of fear around communication, and otherwise known as glossophobia, literally the fear of speaking and communicating. So it is so important that we get this right, but it's just not a skill that we've been taught. It's not a
Hmm.
skill, when we think about school, we're taught to sit down, listen to the
Yeah,
teacher,
just
right?
get the demands right.
It's the opposite. We're told to keep it and it's a little bit different for different regions. So Americans, they do lots more of like getting up and showing, and that's why they're such good speakers. They're
Hmm.
so much better because they've had the practice. Whereas we're a bit, later on in that process. And this is the reason why I set up Toastmasters, honestly, for Google, because I recognize this. I saw a lot of graduates coming in to our European headquarters, and they were given big targets to go and fill. And they were like, yeah, here we go. Here's a really big target. Here's a big client, Coca-Cola. Off you go. Go and present to them. It's like, hang on a second. What am I doing? And this is why it's really important that we create these spaces
Hmm.
so that people can practice. And I honestly, okay, there are guidelines. This is what I do in my coaching of like giving people tasks, giving people frameworks,
Hmm.
giving people the opportunity to practice. But really, again, like one of the most common questions that I get is what does it take to become a really good speaker?
Hmm.
And really it's about firstly knowing yourself and understanding who you are so that you can trust yourself. And when
Mm.
we have that trust and belief in ourselves, then we can relax. And
Exactly.
ultimately,
So
when
when
we
no fear is pumping in, you can speak out freely, but you have to be at yourself. Okay, I'm gonna do this no matter what, and then
that's
magic happens, right?
that's it. It's like confidence comes from within. And
Mm.
when we trust ourselves, like when you know things, like what do you know? You know the sun's gonna rise tomorrow. You don't even think about it, right? You just know it's gonna happen. So how do we do that for ourselves? Well, we just know that every time we get up on stage, or it doesn't have to be a literal stage, it could be like a meeting room, it could be like you said, speaking to your partner, it could
Mm.
be your boss, it could be anybody that you speak to. They're all stages, really. But when you get into that situation that you just know that you're going to speak from a place of truth, and whatever's coming out of you, whatever words you find are the right words for that moment, and you
Hmm.
just trust yourself. And that's what it is. It's about believing and trusting in yourself. And that's
Hmm.
why it's just not about that like communication bit. It's also that self discovery aspect is so important.
Exactly. And you have to stay true to yourself, even with the words that you use, because when you use like a business slang kind of word, or if you try to pretend to be someone else, you smell a phony from a mile away, but your story doesn't make sense. Then when you see me as an individual, some things you can't relate to if I talk to them, if I talk about some subjects, right? Then you have to come from very good houses to keep that up. So,
Yeah.
and that's what you also teach people, be authentic to yourself, because you can have a great story but not a good storyteller, but otherwise around too. So you could have a very bad story, but if you are a good storyteller and people are clamped to your lips, then you can make a point out of your story, right?
That is so true. You're right. I always ask that as one of my questions, actually. What's more important, a good story or good storyteller? And I mean, the answer is both, right? You want both, ideally.
Yeah.
But actually, I've heard really bad stories being told by really good storytellers. And I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I'm somewhat compelled by this. I don't know why, but actually, you're persuading me. And that's where
Exactly.
in my coaching, it's really there's three dimensions that I look at. It's first of all, I get into understanding people's stories and their essential natures. So we start to peel back the layers of the onions to really understand like what makes you you and
Hmm.
what's your expertise. So I'm really listening to people's stories, and so we can uncover their purpose, their golden thread, to understand, what is that narrative that they can really own, that there's theirs. And then secondly, it's about removing any blockers that might be getting in the way of them telling that story. So this is where I use my being a practitioner of NLP and hypnosis. I can
Mm.
then start to actually unlock that. So we look at negative emotions, 5 core negative emotions that people might hold: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. We
Hmm.
look at limiting beliefs. So, I'm just not good at speaking, or sometimes I'm good, but sometimes I'm not great.
Uh-huh.
And then anchors as well, negative anchors. People attach negativity to things, places, you know, all sorts. So we take away those negative anchors and we give them positive ones. We give them
Mm.
confidence, we give them focus, we give them whatever they need to be able to go and fulfill that form of communication. And then
Mm.
lastly, it's about that, like, that authenticity and really understanding, like, how do we package that story up and then get people to be able to tell that story again on whatever stage, like we talked about, that makes sense for them and
Hmm.
also for their audience, but telling that in a really authentic way. And I always talk about, like, I think comedians are the best at this. They just, like, don't they just get up on stage and they just own
And you
it?
just do it.
They are just so themselves, even if it's like geeky, nerdy, they're like, they just really embrace that side of themselves. And that's what I really admire about comedians, is they just really own it. I love it.
And I think that's a great part about comedians, because even if they have like stage fright or something like that, or when they're nervous, when they know that they're gonna put themselves out and be vulnerable, and
Mm.
use that as a accelerator, quite just like,
Mhm.
okay, Burma, I got a handicap, I got two hearing aids. If I make fun of that, people are, can I laugh at that? Yes, I can laugh at that. So you can. And I think every time when you go on stage, you gotta feel, you got to pick the audience. What's the narrative? What can I do? What can I do? Right?
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that as well, because so just own it is my tagline. This is what I talk about. So it's like, I truly believe when you own your story, you become unfuckable. So it's like, if
Mm.
you can just like address it up front and just be like, hey, by the way, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Number one, you'll probably get some laughs, and you'll
Uh-huh.
also you become relatable. You're then like not this like perfect person that is just so unrelatable. You're then like human, and this is what everybody wants, right? They're like,
Exactly.
oh, I totally get it, I resonate. And then that's it, you've won the attention of your audience, you've got them on
Exactly.
side, now they're relaxed and ready to listen to you.
And that's the funny thing, because when you tell a story, no matter if you're a brand or you want to talk to other people about your personal story or whatever story you
Mm,
want to tell, you want people to listen to your story.
100%.
Otherwise, you wouldn't tell it, right? So, and it makes sense to get these little tips and tricks, especially from you, Kay. Um, are there three little tips that people at home could use to be a better speaker, or maybe they now are very nervous to speak next week to the boss or to the management board or stuff like that? That three little tricks that just, that they get pumped up and go out and do the things that they should do.
Oh, yeah. So you talked about confidence, right? And
Mm-hmm.
nerves. And I think with this, I do, yeah, some great um workshops around this and confidence. And it's about, like I said, getting yourself into state, because it's an energy. When we speak, it's a form of energy that we're transferring. So, like you said, we're living in this attention economy, right? If we want to grab someone's attention and get them to listen to us, we
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to bring in that right energy to the stage. Like, have you ever heard a bad speaker or somebody who doesn't like speaking? It's like painful, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like, oh, they don't want to be here and I don't want to be here. And you feel it. You feel it. So again, it's about like, how do we get ourselves into that right state so that we are, giving across the right energy. And I think there's a few different ways to do that. So the preparation is super important. So the more we feel prepared, the more relaxed we're able to feel, because we know our content. So firstly, speaking on a topic that makes sense to you, you
mm-hmm.
of course should be an expert in that topic, right? And that's why I always say, like, also when you're starting to speak, probably starting to speak and about yourself, which who's a better expert in you than you, right? So
Exactly.
that's why we lead with intros. Hello, my name's Kay Munday and I'm a communications coach, because it just rolls off the tongue. And then once I've got that bit over, I'm like, okay, I'm a bit more relaxed and eased into it. But before we go on stage, preparation, but what does that preparation actually look like immediately before? And I say stage, right? But it could be any stage. But before we go and have that communication opportunity, what does that look like? Firstly, it's getting out of here, because we're so
Mm-hmm.
good at getting in our own ways, aren't we? Like telling ourselves narratives like, what
Oh
if I
yeah,
go trip up? And we play
little
the what if
voices.
game. Oh, the what if game is just the worst game you can ever play, right? So get rid of the what if game or turn it into a positive what if game. What if I go and they love me? What if I go and like teach them all something they don't know and they go, oh, that was really interesting.
Wow.
So reframing what's going on up here, I think is really important. That can really
Hmm.
help us. Then using tools in our toolbox. So whatever that means to you, there's different things that I do. I use my visualization. So
Hmm.
I imagine that it's actually gone superbly. So what's the last thing I need to know for it to have been a success? Well, I've just finished my presentation and then everyone's applauding and then I walk off stage and they're coming up to me being like, oh, Kay, that was so good. Thank you so much. I learned so much. And I visualize that in my head. Well, I'm a visual, so I can see that quite clearly. But I get that some people aren't as well. So you can use other tools. Maybe if
Hmm.
you're an auditory learner, then you might want to listen to music. And certain music we know gets us into a certain state. You know, the music that makes you really happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just pump it up and then go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
But you know, maybe we're too energized and we need to bring down. So maybe it's like a bit of classical music, or maybe we do need a bit of pumping up and we want to listen to something upbeat. So it's just understanding and recognizing where we're at and then what
Uh-huh.
tool is appropriate. And the same as well with our breath. So our breath is one of those tools that is
Hmm.
it's an organic thing, right? We don't have to think about it, but when we do think about it, we can control it. They
Hmm.
say, don't they say that it's the only way you can lie on a lie detector with your breath because you can change your heartbeat.
Oh, very
So there
interesting.
you
Please
go.
keep talking.
So, but again, it's like just connecting with it and recognizing our breath. Okay, and is it quick because we're nervous, or is it,
Uh-huh.
do we need to like
Exactly.
slow down? And then just taking a few nice calming breaths. And it's about getting out of here and connecting with here,
Yeah,
right? Getting
exactly.
into our bodies is what we don't do enough of. And that's when we bring our energy down into our bodies, that's when we are really effective. And ultimately, we've got three decision makers in our bodies, right? We've got
Hmm.
our head, our heart,
Art.
and our intuition.
Uh-huh.
And when we speak from any one of these, it's never that effective. So you might have heard somebody who speaks from their heart, and oh my god, I've got to just tell you this thing, and it's amazing, and oh, I'm just gushing because it's so good, and you're like, whoa, that's a lot, that's a lot. And then you might hear somebody speak from their head, and and today, I'm going to tell you about this thing, and they use crutch words,
Hmm.
and R's,
To
because
think.
they're trying to think what's the right thing to say next. But the right thing doesn't exist. It's just about letting it flow and relaxing. And that's where actually what we want is the alignment of all three. So
Hmm.
they're all in tune, in flow. Because when we're in flow, it nicely flows. You
Exactly.
see? I
And
think that
I,
was more than three, but there you go.
yeah, but that's perfect. That's perfect. And I really recognize it because I was performing on stage with a theater group. So
Nice.
in the film you can cut like 50 or 60 times and do it again and again. But on
Mm,
stage on theater, you just got to do the stuff that you need to do.
yeah. So my question to you is, if you were on stage and you made a mess up, how would you recover?
Oh, with probably, well, two things. Probably if I mess up with like with my band, I would make some jokes.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Just
that's one way.
okay, yes, I'm a just make a joke out of myself so everybody could laugh at me because I'm laughing at myself
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah.
And when I was doing that with the theater show, it was just like improvising. Nobody
Mm,
knows what my line would be next. So
yes.
when I knew that I screw up, just like okay, looking at the other actors and okay, this is my line. Oh, where the hell is it? And sometimes you hear it back from stage, because you got these I don't know what's it called, whisperers that they say the line very.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can hear a thing because I got hearing aids at that time, so just like I'm all here on my own. So and just yeah, just like I said, or improvising, or just telling that you screwed up. That's the best thing you can do. Oh man, I just totally forgot my line. And it's
Yeah.
the truth. So hold on, walk back, come back with the book. I think I got it now, and then go back and do it again. I think that was, well, that's a little bit me. Yeah.
I think it's it. It's like understanding how bad of a mess up it is, right? If you just like said a word wrong and you can kind of get away with it, just like keep going.
Mm.
If it's like a total mess up, then just being like, look, guys, I'm sure you've had this as well. I've got on stage and had total mind blanks. You know, you're like, I've literally forgotten everything that I was meant to say. And the best thing is just to be really honest about it. I actually saw this at a conference not so long ago, and a founder of a tech startup did the same thing. And he's like, oh, I've done that thing. You know, where you just go like completely back. And do you know what? It was the best response. The whole audience started clapping and cheering. And then what happened? Because you know why do you know why we mind blank?
Probably because we're, oh, I'm stuck, right?
You're a little bit stuck.
I'm like,
Right, you're on a good
but you
pose.
can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, there
There
we
you go,
are.
you're back.
Oh, so
So go on. The question was, you know why? Do you know why we get mind blanks?
probably because we're thinking too much about what we're going to say, right?
That's right. So we go conscious. You know, when you're thinking of somebody's, like your friend's name, and you're like, oh, what's that person's name? What's the name? What's the name? What's the name? And it's like you've gone too conscious. And then, like, later on, when you're relaxed or like having a shower or just about to go to bed, you're like, oh, that's the name.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You relax. And that's it. It's again, it's just back to what we're saying. It's like being an effective communicator is all about
Hmm.
how relaxed you can be and let it flow. So this is it. And this is so on stage, back to the founder, everyone was clapping and cheering and whooping him. And then he relaxed, right? Because he was like, oh my gosh, everyone's on my side. They want me to win. And then he relaxed. And he was like, oh, I've remembered. So then he carried on what he was going to say. And it was a beautiful moment. It was really, really beautiful.
Wow. And I have to be honest with you. When I was doing business for an English company at that time, and in Germany, I have to do a lot of presentations and stuff like that. And I never ever prepared. I always prepared, like it could be like there could be one person, that could be two persons which were very influential, but it could be 300. I didn't care. Just like, okay, I'm not going to prepare. I know what I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to bump in the room. And I
Mm.
think one of the things that especially has to do with when you're going on stage with the confidence is the body talk, right? If I'm going to get with my shoulders back and a little bit just like with my hands, okay, I'm going to make a presentation, just like that, or you just go in, okay, hi, I'm Rob. Maybe I'm going to screw it up, but anyways, let's get on to it, that makes so much sense too. And eye contact. And a lot of people I know that when we look them in the eyes, they did shut down. So
Mm.
how is that one? Is it also a thing that you can relate to when you coaching people, that they shut down when they have eye contact with the people that they uh, do a presentation to?
Yeah, so I mean, well, first thing you mentioned was body language, right? And you're right. So like nearly 60% of communication is actually your body language. It's again, it's energy. You can
Mm,
walk into a room and you don't even have to speak to somebody to realize they're in a bad mood. You're like, whoa, not gonna go over there. So
exactly.
it's the same. So when we go on stage and we've, like said, got your shoulders back, you're not fidgeting, you're confident. You know what a confident person feels like. You know what it feels to feel confident in yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like you feel you're got a spring in your step, walk differently. And then when when we don't feel confident, we kind of like hunch together, we close, we're protected, we have our arms in front of each other.
Hmm.
So again, it's why the preparation is so important, so we can get ourselves into that state, because you never know what's happened leading up to that. You might have had a rubbish journey to work, you might have all these things happen. And it's like forgetting that. It's like,
Hmm.
right, new chapter, this is what's happening now, reset. And this is why rituals are super important as well. So I have my set rituals I do before I go on stage to get myself into that state. And then the second thing you mentioned was about eye contact, and eye contact is important. I think it's just what it's one tool and one trick, Not like staring somebody down. I would advise that, but I do think that we connect through our eyes, and if you can pick people out of the audience and go around and look, and you'll know your cheerleaders, so there'll be people nodding along with you
Yeah, you
at
need
the
that
front.
ones, right?
Right, and you can use them as anchors. So if you ever need some confidence, and you can obviously revert back to your cheerleader and go, okay, good. Right, okay, what I'm saying isn't a load of rubbish. They're actually getting this.
Oh,
So
that's
you
good.
use
Yeah.
those anchors in the room to help you, but also like engaging with people. And of course, you can sense, can't you? If you're giving somebody eye contact and they don't want that, then you don't need to be intrusive and push that. But it's like at least they feel like they're being acknowledged in some way. And I think that's it, right? It's all about the way that we make people feel.
Yeah,
And it's that
exactly.
energy exchange, and it's that like I'm speaking to you, even though you're one of hundreds in this room. I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you. I see you, I hear you, and that's what's important.
Wow. And I learned something from speaking, and I have to do with it's a journey and it's still a lesson for me. When I'm very enthusiastic, I just keep rattling on and stuff like that. And because I'm Dutch, so I speak in English. That's a little bit more sometimes different with the words and stuff like that. Sometimes it comes automatically. Sometimes it's just like, okay, finding the words because they're the Dutch, German, and English popping up in my head. But what I learned is to take pauses. And
Yes.
with pauses came my own voice. So sometimes I'm a little bit high up in my energy. But when I just think about that and just like, oh wait, Rob, you're very enthusiastic now. You're spitting too much words. Right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking to Kay Munday. And it makes so much sense. So because when we enter a room or there is a lot of audience and stuff like that, the first 15 to 20 seconds, people have to adjust to your voice, to your
Mhm.
being, to your voice, to your tone. So that makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Do you have a different voice for stage or phone calls or different situations, do you think?
Mm, mm, yes, sometimes I do. It depends on the day. And it's very
It is
strange
a
because it's,
day.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, what happens on Tuesdays or Mondays?
Oh, Mondays is like,
Mine is a high voice or a low
good
voice?
morning, Monday.
Okay.
No, I'm quite a pumped up guy. I'm really enthusiastic and positive minded. So,
Mm,
I'm always ready to rumble. So that's first of all. But when I did a lot of sales, um, there's a psychology behind it. Every word you say, and we had this. When I want to sell something to you, let's say it's something for 499 euros. A lot
mm.
of people are very awkward with when somebody is not saying anything. But what we did is just like, okay, Kay, I got a special opportunity for you. Only today you can purchase it for 499.
And then leave it for the tumbleweed. Yeah. Right? I agree, I agree. It's people wanna when they feel uncomfortable, they wanna fill that gap, don't they? They wanna like, oh, and then they give away the tricks.
Yeah,
So they're
exactly.
thinking, that's it, and then you're able to make that negotiation 100%. I agree. Firstly, I wanna rewind slightly and just say like, praise to you, by the way. Speaking in a different language, I always think is super commendable. I don't speak any other language enough confidently to actually get on stage or speak in a different language. So I always think that that is underrated when somebody doesn't well, speaks in a language that's not their native language. So I can
Thank
only
you.
commend that. But it does add this layer of complexity, right? So and and that's something that you're right. It's like when we build pauses into this, it helps because then you can actually choose each word carefully and really think about it. And in our heads, it might sound like a million years. But
Hmm.
actually, the audience is like, oh, he's just being really dramatic. I love it. Like, or just, it might actually just sound like he's really confident or a normal pace. Or
Exactly.
especially when we're nervous, we get ahead of ourselves. We just want to run our stage. And so you're right, it's that pace and adding pause can really actually be in our favor.
Hmm.
And I think also you mentioned about like trying to find the right words and saying words differently. And again, it's like just that, I call it professional vulnerability.
Hmm.
It's leaning into that. So actually I'm coaching a client at the moment who's African and struggles to say certain words and does a lot of speaking, and people are constantly asking like, sorry, what? And actually we've talked about just addressing it up front and being really honest and owning
Huh.
it, right? Again, it goes back to ownership. It's owning it at the start of that
Yeah.
conversation and just saying, hey, actually, do you know what? This is something that crops up all the time. And I'm just going to own this so that, we're all on the same page. And then again, does like, you just like want to be his friend after that because you're like, oh, wow, you're so vulnerable. Like people love vulnerability, don't they?
Is it? Yeah, exactly.
So that's definitely a way of doing things for sure. And then, did you say something else? Have I covered the grounds? I've forgotten now.
Sorry?
I've gone too conscious. Was there another point? I feel like there was, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing is that if you claim how you are and how you be, and you know your flaws,
yes.
if everyone who's been honest, um it has his flaws. So when I'm struggling with my words, and well, I'm always saying that I'm skipping branches like a squirrel because my ADHD brain is like buck, 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 just like now. But so I have to get a grip of myself. So
Relax. There you go. Breath.
that's it. So a friend of mine, which is in the United States, he told me, "In what language do you think?"
Oh
So,
yeah.
and I said, it, de- "It depends." So normally I talk to myself in English, with, but I'm a Dutch guy, so in Dutch and in English. But when I'm mad, I swear in German. I'm
Wow.
half, yeah. And my girlfriend, she said that too. Just like, if you're mad, you're gonna
No,
switch like that to German somehow. And
that's
it's
so interesting.
also when I'm what I really like about the German is that it's a very, you know English has been taught and spoken all over the world.
Mm,
Dutch isn't, because it's a very strange and very small amount of people talk Dutch. But
mm.
like German, it feels like it's very static and very what's it called, business wise somehow.
It's so interesting what you're saying, isn't it? Because so I'm actually about to run a workshop session for International Women's Day and talking about exactly this. It's like I'm calling it finding your inner voice and
Uh-huh.
connecting. It's all about connecting with your voice. And there is so much identity in our voice, isn't there? Like, have you ever listened to yourself back on a recording and been like, oh, like people don't like it. They don't like the sound of their own voice.
Nope.
And that's something that crops up quite a lot with clients as well. I've had a few clients say, oh, can you give me elocution lessons? And I'm like, absolutely not. I was like, we're going to lean into that more because it's a part of your narrative, right? Where you come
Exactly.
from, your accent, your like, it's what makes you different and it's what makes you unique and beautiful. And
Hmm.
that's something that you can really own in your story because it's like, that's cool, right? Tell me about where you're from. Tell me about like those
Yeah.
experiences you've had. And it's funny that people want to shy away from that. But I do get it. Like when I used to answer the phone at home, people used to think it was my brother because I have such a deep voice. They'd be like, "Oh,
Okay, cool.
Connie," and I'm like, "No, it's Katie." And I was like, "Hang on a second. Like, what am I? Do I sound like a boy?" And and that's it. And I think we get hung up on these things, don't we, from a
Hmm.
young age sometimes because we want to fit in. We want to fit in, and sometimes our voice and our narrative doesn't align with who we want to be right now.
Exactly.
Because I think we were kind of talking a bit before this, weren't we, around we're sold this lifestyle, especially on social media, especially all the time around us. It's like how we should be showing up.
Mm.
You know, to get all this money, to do all these things, then you should be doing X, Y, and Z, 5 steps to success. And it's
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
hold on, it's not so simple as this cookie cutter type process that everybody makes out. And actually, like, why not just revert back to being authentic? It's like you just said at the start, is actually when we're trying to be something we're not, people can sense it a mile away.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
nowadays we crave authenticity. We do. But
Yeah, and
apart from that,
that's the funny thing because we are strange, right? People are strange creatures. You know, just like with the hands. You go on stage and all of a sudden you realize you
what
got
doing with
hands.
things?
What the hell should I
What
do
are
with these
these?
things?
So true.
And the funny thing is, if you look to some people like if you look at like the Italians speak with a lot of, you know,
Mm,
waving with their hands and expressing themselves, but it makes so much sense because not only the body language and the language that you talk or the things that you speak about, it makes so much sense to connect stuff with your hands, right? And it's
100%.
really funny because you see that a lot of politicians, they only have, you know, like a few things that they can do with their hands, because when you stand there and you have your hands in your pocket, it makes no sense when you're telling something like to the world, you know. And it's really funny uh how we how we work, you know. You, just like you said, you got your mind, you got your heart, you got your intuition, that
Mm,
should be all in balance. But then
mm.
all of a sudden when you got that imbalance, you got also the you know, your hands and your posture, your
Everything's
everything
control.
that should be aligned to
Yeah.
get the message out.
Well, should they? This is a thing. So I guess like this is where I one of the ways in which I think I set myself aside from other coaches, in that I'm a bit of a rebel, really, if we're going to be honest. I've
Good.
always done things a little bit differently, and I'm really into like ripping up the rule book in many different ways. But in this sense, it's about I just honestly pledge to doing. I think doing is the best form of learning, and that's what I really am. Just a tour guide in my coaching. Like I said, I give different practices and techniques and a chance, an opportunity for people to experience different ways of doing things so that they get a sense of like what feels right for them. So, you know, you might come across some coaches that are like, hold your arms like this and don't do this and do this. And it's like, hold on, if that feels right for you and it makes sense for you, like lean into that, do it.
Exactly.
Definitely. Because it's what it is. It's just like all about how do we get you to be a truly as authentically you as possible. And it's like,
Exactly.
I always liken it's like, if you're a perfume, what would be your essence? What would you smell like? And like, how do we get you to like spray it all over your body? So when
Hmm.
you go and walk down the street, people are like, oh gosh, you smell great. Like, what is that? And you're just like, you're just you.
Exactly. Exactly. So fascinating how it works, right? And
It really
can
is.
everybody learn to speak in public?
Yes, I think this is the key thing, right? Is it's a skill that can be learned. It's a choice. And if we think about it, actually, life is all about choices. And
Mm,
actually, my favorite quote, so this is my quote, which is your life is a book and you are the author. So why not make it a story worth telling? And actually, in fact, I'm going to go one step further than that.
uh-huh.
I think the best stories are those that are retold. The stories that you can't wait to go home and tell your family and your friends. Oh, do you know what I've just heard? I've just had this really great conversation with this guy, Rob, and he's just told me this amazing story that I've got to share with you, right? And that's your
Exactly.
legacy, isn't it? It's your legacy. And that's why it goes back to like, this is why it's so important to understand our own stories and how to tell them. But of course, sometimes we need a tour guide. We need somebody who's been through that journey
Yeah, exactly. Take you by
themselves
the hand
to
and
tell us this. And I've got 8 coaches currently, right? Richard Branson has 47, not quite there yet. But I recognize the power in having a coach because they've got so much more knowledge and experience than me. I'm
Exactly.
like, "Give it to me. I wanna know so that I can be the best version of myself,
Hmm.
so that I can keep growing and learning, and that I can keep developing myself and showing up for my clients in a different way and bringing them on that journey." So, yes,
Hmm.
it definitely is a learned skill. Like, I've turned, right, my biggest fear, my worst skill into now my career. It's what I
Wow.
do for a living. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, if you a lot of people think, oh, they got success, so they don't need any coach because they've been through that. No, 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 no. The people with success have coaches because there's so much to learn, so much to think about. If it's going to be food, exercise, speaking, be accountability. That's it. It's like that. My course, like Get Shit Done, is about accountability through
Yeah,
yourself.
nice.
Right? So everyone struggles with something in their life. Everyone.
Mm.
There's no. There's even godlike made people or godlike human godlike entities are struggling with some stuff. They want to rule the world, or they want to change the world, or whatever. They bump into things, but you can only do that if you're, just like you said, most authentical to yourself and to be true to yourself, right? You can spill out the lies to other ones, but then you tell lies to yourself also,
It
and that makes
is.
no sense. So you can better say, okay, I screwed up, and what I'm going to do now. Yesterday I screwed up, but today's another day. So you got to be in this motion all the time. And sometimes a day goes by and you have a great day. Sometimes that could be a really messed up day. Could be a week, could be a month. You got all these things going on in life that's going to be good and bad, and you have to work about it. And sometimes you just have something like, oh, I'm doing so great and stuff like that, and then you just like, oh, what was the last time that I did my workout? Ooh, oh,
True.
and that's good to have a coach to push yourself to the limit and to be the best version of yourself, because that's what
Agreed.
we want, right?
Agreed. And I think like, so this is what again, and it's like, thank you for your work, by the way. Super, super useful and helpful for people. And this is again is what I talk about is, I had to sit myself down and get really honest with myself. If I take
Mm,
a look at myself right now, am I who I want to be? Are things working out for me? If I'm really genuinely honest, are there things that I need to change? And the first step is that acknowledgement. It's like, hello, actually, no. I want
yep.
I want different for myself. And maybe that's more money, maybe that's more better relationships, maybe that's better health. Whatever that is for you, the first step is really like taking acknowledgement of that. Then the second step is taking action. And like you said, it's getting a coach, getting some support, and doing the difficult things. It's
Mm,
leaning into that thing. It's my biggest fear was speaking. And I knew that I had to like confront it head on because and that's what I talk about. It's the conversations that we don't want to have. It's those
mm,
difficult, awkward conversations are some of the conversations that we need to have. They can make all the difference to our lives. So, what is it? What's the conversation that you need to have that could
mm.
really make a difference to your life? And then after you do this, right? When we have that difficult conversation, don't we always walk away going, "Oh, well, either that
That
was
wasn't
like
too bad.
it wasn't too bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Or it's like a weight lifted, isn't it, right? It's like,
Yep.
"Oh, actually, I can," and then that's what happens. So we start to get that confirmation that actually I'm not as bad as I thought I was.
Mm.
And then when we repeat this action, it's like speaking on stage, right? We do the difficult thing. We get up there once and we're like, "Oh, hang on. I'm not rubbish."
Ha.
Then when we do it again, but we integrate the feedback, and again, this is why it's really important to have a coach so that they are giving you constructive, personalized feedback, holding you accountable. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get up there and you do it again, but you're adding that feedback, integrating it into your next action you're taking. And then you go, hold on, that was better than last time. Right. And we get this
Exactly.
repeated action. We then start to believe in ourselves. And then when we believe in ourselves, we trust ourselves. And then we go back to what we were talking about right at the very start, right? It's
Hmm.
about trusting, relaxing into our bodies, trusting that we've got this. We're good
Yeah.
at this. In fact, I am a good speaker, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Just like I'm gonna do the best I can, and what comes out, I don't know, but I'm just gonna do it. And when you got the positive feedback, or somebody that says, "Hey, wow, you just nailed it," that makes it like, okay, I want to do it again. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And
And
there's,
then
oh,
how go on.
go on, go on.
I was gonna say, sorry, then how do you get then to that point of knowingness? That's what it's about. So this is what we coach is like, yeah, it's good to have validation, right? People say, oh, you're great. But like, when do you get to that point where you don't need that? You just
Hmm,
know because you know yourself, you just know in your heart you smashed it,
exactly,
right?
exactly. And it's very good what you pointed out. Just like sometimes you gotta sit down. Okay, uh, how about my personal life? Well, that's not too bad. How about my business life? Oh,
Mm.
I'm stuck in this job, or I need more money, or I need more people that gonna look up to me and stuff like that, or want to do something else with my life than do this 9 to 5 job, whatever it's gonna be, right? Or I want to do this, I want to do that, or this goes good and this is bad. Then you got to change. My motto is change life before it changes you. Because guess what? You can wake up tomorrow with a completely different life because some things happen in your life, or things happen to you that you can't do the things anymore, which I had.
Mm.
That's basically my story, right? Just like
Mm.
one day I woke up after drinking and drugs and stuff like that, and you know what? My body shut it down. I had
Uh,
an inflammation and a perforation of my intestines. That's not
wow.
something you're gonna write to your friends. Hey, you look at this! Isn't that great achievement in my life? You know,
Mm.
it's really it's stupid, and you have to think about it. How do I gonna change, and what do I have to change? Is it an easy path? No, but with my vision now is when there's friction, there's energy. When you
Mm.
do the things you do normal in life that go like normal, there's no friction.
Mhm.
There's no energy coming to it. But when you do out of the comfort zone,
Difficult things.
the things that you don't like to do,
Yeah.
there's friction, gives
But how
energy.
do we get people to start thinking and doing those difficult things before something radically happens? Because a lot of like you said, you had to have something happen to you
Mm-hmm.
that was not very nice. Thank you for sharing your story as well, being so open and vulnerable. Appreciate it.
Thank
But
you.
that's it. Like, how can we get people to learn from? And it's same. I've made so many mistakes. Don't do what I did. I I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to
The
learn
thing.
from my mess ups, so you don't do that. But how do we get people to start thinking about, okay, before something horrific happens,
Mm-hmm.
how do I actually prevent that? And it becomes a preventative thing of taking action yourself. And like you said, it's being an action taker and influencing our surroundings rather than having our surroundings influence us, right? Create the
Exactly.
game. Don't play the game that you're given. You start to then create the game. And this is it. It's like I say, you're the author, right? You're the creator. This is the
Hmm.
fun bit. People just don't realize the power is in your hands. It's like, okay, so what does that next chapter look like? What's,
Exactly. How are you
what,
gonna rewrite your own life again? What you have to
how are you
do
gonna,
for it? And the thing is, I write things down, and I did especially uh, quite when we met. Right, I was writing things down, just like, okay, I screwed up so many times. Where was the screw up? Am I going to tell myself the stupid lie that I'm never going to drink again or never going to do drugs again? No, that's. I think that's something that's not in my system, but the way I'm going to do it is going to be totally different. So I allow myself to drink my beer. I allow myself sometimes when there's a great party to do, well, some recreative stuff and stuff like that. But the way I do it is in a completely different perspective than I did before. And I really know now what could be what could be, what's it called? Um, what could be the critical thing that you have made a choice that tomorrow you have a hangover if you drink too much, you don't have any money in your pocket, you smell like shawarma or stuff like that because you go to you're gonna get that stuff out. If you do drugs, that there is a possibility that you have 2 or 3 days that you're not in this world and you're not focused. And I want to be focused. I want to be, I got home, set everything up for the podcast. I can't sit here stone and drunk and stuff like that because yesterday I had a hungover, because I want to give you the full attention to have a conversation with you. And that makes sense for me. But the early Rob, I probably was sitting here thinking about flying dragons and stuff like that.
I love your honesty, definitely. And that's it. It's like, it's being intentional, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
what do you really want in life? And it's being realistic as well. It's like, I was the same. I was partying hard. I had a great time in my 20s, especially. And I recognize if I really want to get to the person that I want to be and achieve the goals that I want, then I
Mm,
cannot continue, because I was just like, same input equals the same output. So you got to
exactly.
start doing things differently if you want different results. So what does that actually look like? And then
Mm,
being really intentional about it and holding yourself responsible. And it's the difference, right? We can react. Of course, we are humans where we like instant gratification. It's like, oh, that chocolate cake looks good. Right, it's going to be tasty for that moment, but is it going to align with my weight goals? Maybe not.
exactly.
Right? Or like you just said, drinking or whatever that is for you might be great in the moment, but actually is it going to affect my plans tomorrow? And therefore, it's like we have to think big picture
Hmm.
and ask ourselves. And actually, so I've just been reading Atomic Habits, right, which I think is a
Oh.
great book recommendation if anybody wants to. So this was a reread, yeah, after like January, where everybody obviously sets all of their New Year's resolutions. And I was like,
Hmm.
hey, how am I going to continue this and make it a genuine habit change? So reread Atomic Habits, and again, that's something that he talks about in there, is actually doing this. It's like, what would, thinking about a role model that you
Hmm.
want to, because modeling behavior is really effective, right? It's something that, again, in my speaking career, I've
NLP.
done lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my speaking career, I've done lots of, is looking at who do I think is a really good speaker, and what behaviors do they demonstrate, and then how can I replicate them but with my own style,
Hmm.
right? And it's the same. It's like, okay, so if I want to be really fit and healthy, who do I know that's really fit and healthy that I can replicate their behavior? And then when I'm looking at that chocolate cake, I go, hang on a second, what would they do? Would
Oh,
they eat the
exactly.
chocolate cake? And it's like, no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Walk away from the chocolate cake. Just avoid it. Just walk past, walk past, walk past. Right? So it's the same thing in those moments of weakness that we're like, oh, and it's a split second, isn't it? It's like
Exactly.
one moment and then you've taken a drink and it's like, you
Ah,
just like, I might
can I
as
have a
well
little bit
now,
more? It,
right?
it all has to do with choices. Everyone has so much
Yes.
things in their life that could be a choice, but what's the consequence of the choice that you made? You have to
100%.
be aware of that. And come back to it, to your question, like um, how can you make people aware of the things that could cost your health or cost your life or cost your relationship or whatever, because every choice that you make could have a consequence. I think is by telling your story about the
Mm,
things that you've been through, and if people are going to pick it up, that's great. Then you can coach them in the way that we do. If they
mm,
bump up into I can speak out in public or stuff like that, then they find you. I think that there is something in this beautiful universe, in this ether, that people will find you, and other people say, oh, well, talking about Kay, oh, I don't know, or talking about Rob, oh, I don't know, that's crazy ass motherfucker. I don't know. Fine, that then you're not my audience, right?
oh,
Because if
that's
you
it.
don't
Yeah,
listen,
not everybody's a no, I found this out, right? Yeah, not everybody's a client.
no,
Right,
exactly.
the work I do is transformational. Like everybody, all of my clients, right? One of my clients wanted to get a promotion, so that was it. It was understanding his story so that he could go and tell his boss and go and into interviews and put himself in that best light, but he had to really understand himself first and package up
Hmm.
that narrative so that he could do that effectively. Not only, right, did he go and get a promotion, he didn't just land a new job that was one level above what he was at. It was like 2 or 3. It was a global board role that
Wow.
he landed. And this is it. It's like understanding your narrative in that space. Is another client that I worked with. She's decided to become a coach in her own right because I think, again, creating your own brand
Hmm.
is, I think everybody should do it because it's such a fascinating process. You get to learn so much about yourself and ask
Exactly.
that question, that big question, who am I? Not what you are, not like,
No,
oh,
no,
I'm
no,
a
no. I know
proud
what the world looks
businesswoman.
to you,
It's
but
like
who are
beneath
you?
that, what makes you you? What's your golden thread? What are we, what's your value? How
Hmm.
can you live your life with purpose and go out there and do something that's meaningful, that makes you like, oh, I'm so excited, I can't wait. And this is me for speaking, right? It's like every time I go and coach people and help people, I just like, I don't need drugs. That is good enough for me.
That's
That's
good. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
honestly, I'm
exactly.
running around the garden afterwards. Like, this is my drug, is going and helping people. And that's what I would implore others to do. And since I've been working with this lady that I was talking about, she's come and done her own coaching. She set herself a social media target that she wanted to hit that 10 million followers. And I was like, okay, so let's put a time frame on it. What are you going to achieve this by? She's like, oh, I think it's like realistic to do. I was like, okay, let's not do realistic. Let's like go for this.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
she did a year, and I was like, nah, let's cut that in half. Let's do 6 months. She hit it in 3.
What?
And this is it. I know what I do works. Like everybody I work with is absolutely smashing their goals. And so I
Wow.
only really want to work with people who are like, give it to me. I'm ready.
I
Right?
need that.
I am ready. I want to take this on. What's my next chapter? And that's like me with my coaches. I pay so much for my coaches purposefully so that when I
Uh-huh.
sit down and my bum sat in the seat, I'm like, right, I'm ready. Every minute, second is valuable. I want to get 100% of my return
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
investment. And that's it. I didn't realize how impactful coaching could be until I had my first coach. And then when I started to realize, oh, wow, okay, so now, and it's transformed me, and I'm able to then take on more clients. More people want to work with me because I'm a nicer, better person. And
Uh-huh.
actually, my knowledge has expanded, and therefore I've got more to bring to the table. Therefore, I can charge more as well. I made back whatever I spent on coaching
Uh-huh.
tenfold, and then was able to pay more for coaching. So it's just like,
Wow.
I think people sometimes, when you've not had a coach, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Hmm.
And then you start to realize, oh, hang on a second. This is the trick.
The holy grail to step up another step. Well, what was your um there are no mistakes in getting in life, right? There are some stupid things that you could do, but what was the hardest thing for you to, or what is the hardest thing that you bumped into when you worked, where you know that you pushed out your own coaching program and just like, oh man, if I knew that afterwards, that
Mm.
would be tremendous big step forwards.
So just to clarify on your question, you mean like, have I made a mistake that in my
Yeah, which
putting out
one
my
was it?
business? I make mistakes all the time, but I like I said, I see them as learnings, really. I think like, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've made lots of mistakes, like getting up on stage and forgetting all my lines and all that stuff. But with my business, I think currently the challenge I face is social media. It is.
Hmm.
It's like, get me on a stage and I know this, right? This is my playground. I like thrive in that environment because I know it. But social media for me right now is uncomfortable. Although I go and teach, right? This is the
Uh-huh.
irony of it. I go and coach and run workshops for Nike and Samsung and some of the biggest brands in the world of how do you tell an effective story on social media? But bring it back to myself, the irony, I'm like, put a screen in front of me. And I think I've looked into this, and it's the energy, because I love it when I'm like I say, in conversation with you, I'm feeding off your energy, right? It's an exchange, and it's the
Hmm.
same when you're on stage, you've got an audience. But when you're speaking to a screen, it can be quite sterile. And it
It's
can feel like you don't get that feedback, you don't get that, right? You've got to bring it to the table without being over the top as well. And it's
exactly.
like, how do I, how do people get a sense of who I am and my energy and my authenticity,
Mhm.
but over a screen? And I think that's the layer of complexity that right now, I'm going to be honest, I'm figuring this out.
It's a struggle for me too, and I really liked it that you posted it on Instagram just quite a few weeks back. Like, okay, I'm struggling with getting this message out in on this screen, and something that I deal with too, because I did a challenge and stuff like that, and it went through, you got some kind of script that you want to push out. That's working fine, but then all of a sudden, just like, what you know what do they want to what do they want to hear, and how gonna pronounce that? So when I'm coaching one-on-one or in my Zoom groups and stuff like that, it goes like naturally, just like we have now, like a contact, and we can see each other in the eyes, although my camera is there, it's really there, you look you in the eyes. But the thing is, if you look to this black screen, there's no reaction, there's you don't know. And sometimes when you push out something like, oh, that was, I think it was quite good message, like 3 likes, yay. Sometimes when you think, oh man, why did I push the button to post it, and just like 150 likes, what? i don't
Yeah.
i don't i don't I don't know what to do, and I don't want to be like this, like TikTok poser, that I have this narrative that everybody likes, and just do the stuff all over again and copy paste of others. I just want to be myself, just get
And
things done.
that
Done.
is it. I do truly believe it's like, as long as you're adding value
Hmm.
and you're positioning things in a way that you are helping. Oh, here you go. Adding value and help positioning things in a way that people know what's in it for them,
Hmm.
so that you're grabbing their attention. You're like, I'm here to help you. And this is like super valuable and important for you. That gives them a reason to keep listening to you as well. And then I truly believe, so there are frameworks, right, that you can use that I
Mm.
do think are valuable and useful because they're trialed and tested frameworks. But it's like I said, it's like the same as mirroring somebody who is successful, but then putting your own spin on it. So I truly
Yeah,
believe
yeah, yeah.
that using those frameworks and then doing it your way is definitely the best way.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm gonna look at my notes that I made.
I feel like we could talk forever.
Oh, absolutely. I got no time. I got no time. The only thing when I look at time is when I'm looking at my screen for my telephone, and I'm mostly not aware of it because I don't. It's something that not in my dimension. So what's the? So we talked about the storytelling, and I love what you said. Just like life is a book, and you're the author, and you're also the writer of the book, and you're also the actor, the player of that book, right?
Right.
And the unique voice and brand tone. I wrote that down because there are a lot of people, just like you said, you work with Samsung, with Coca-Cola, with Nike, all these brands. They have this. Everybody knows when they see the logo. This is this is Samsung. This is about Nike, and of course they got a slogan. The,
Yeah.
the simple slogan is just, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Somebody
Just do
get.
it. And that's a little bit of my Mickey tape, right? So my slogan is just own it, and theirs is just do it, which is funny because I've been working lots with Nike at the moment, but it's kind of like my thing is like, before you go and do it, you need to know what you're doing, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
need to take that ownership is that first thing that we talked about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, things aren't working for me. I'm just gonna look at this and own this, and then it's about taking the action. So that's how my just own it came about.
Hmm. I got a thing that I tell in my courses is just like done. What means it to do stuff, right? Done
Mm,
means there, organized, no nonsense, and
mm.
energy. If you put these four together, you're gonna get shit done. No, just put it out. But the thing is, if you do that, and a lot of people, and I think you can relate to that, or you can resonate with that. A lot of people that were coaching, they know already the stuff, but they need to be triggered, or they need to be, okay, here's my hand, I'm gonna reach it out. Now I'm gonna do the stuff that you
Oh,
already know, that and you have to,
100%.
yeah, you have to
I
pull
think
them.
this is the myth, right, of coaching, because people say, "Oh, like, are you just gonna tell me what to do?" And it's like, "No, no, 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 no. This comes from you. Like, it's all
Exactly.
in there." Like I said, I'm just that tour guide. I just know the principles, the practices, the techniques to draw that out of you. And it's
Hmm.
funny because I sometimes, like, I'm trained in linguistics, so I'm listening to people's language constantly, and I sometimes I'll land on something quite early doors, and I'm like, "Well, I wonder if that comes up for them." And normally I'm right and it comes full circle, but it's got to come from them, right? You can't
Hmm.
tell somebody, if you tell somebody to do something, how compelling are they to go and do that, right? Not
Oh,
very
no
much.
way.
Yeah,
Even if they
they've got to
tell me
just,
that's something to do, hey Rob, you got to do that. Oh, I don't think so.
yeah, they've got to want to do it themselves, and that's the important thing. And that's
Exactly.
it. It's like when I'm landing and listening to people's narratives, yeah, I can pick out bits, but it's got to feel right for them. And that's when we're finding their golden thread and going back to the brands, right? This is what they do. This is the
Hmm.
whole same principles what they do. I'm trained in these skills, design thinking, prototyping, how you take a concept right the way through to execution. And this is what we do. We go and actually listen to your story.
Hmm.
I listen for the golden nuggets of information, the common denominators, and then start to know. I know what's going to land with an audience because I do this, like I said, for some of the biggest brands in the world.
Hmm.
And I'm listening to the individual and what that is for them. And it is the same process. It's coming up with that's like, what's your one line? What's your tagline? What's your jingle? If it's a sound, is it is it a
Exactly.
color? What does that look like? What does that feel like? If you go and do my whole coaching process, which can be 3 to 6 months, depending on how quickly you want to get done,
Hmm.
that's what we do for you. And we come up with, at the end, you have your narrative, your package based on your objectives and what you want to achieve. Like I said, some of my clients want to do social media, some of them want to go
Hmm.
just like be good at interviewing and speaking. Some of them are speakers on stage. It's like really, it does look and feel very different for the individual. But at the end
Hmm.
of it, you get your narrative. And then what I've learned is like basically we do this distillation process, right? And
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we really get down to is the introduction, because that is what everybody has to do. We all have to introduce ourselves at some point, and rubbish introductions are because people just don't know who they are. So it's like,
Exactly.
hi, my name's John, and I work in the IT department of X company, and I've worked here for X years. You're just using this same boring generic formula, but you're not actually showing me who you are. That's
Hmm.
what you are, it's not who you are. So, how do
Exactly.
we? And I've got this formula that I use, and it's this distillation process we have to go down to and get through to really understand who you are and then come up with this introduction where people are like, wow. And they're like, I feel like I know you. I can resonate and I relate to you. And
Uh-huh.
that's when you start to make meaningful connections and relationships with people. And if we're really honest about this, that's what it's about, right? It's like people
Yeah,
do
exactly.
business with people.
And everybody loves a good story.
Everyone loves a good story. It's
And
we living one big narrative.
it, it,
It's
it
all
it's
about the
one
stories we
play.
tell.
It's one play that we're in. And we see a lot of stuff going on in this world, by other people's plays, and we walk into them and we step out of them. But the thing is, when you're going to own your own play, you can, just like you say, you could be the director, you could be the one that you want, but you have to step into that with confidence and knowing who you are, because otherwise you're going to lose yourself. If I'm going to tell a lie, even if it's going to be like a sales lie, or pretend to be someone else that I am, that wouldn't hold up like 1 week, because I'm too honest for that, first of all. But for other people, they think they can do that, but guess what? It won't turn out. You can better be prepared to face your own demons
Mm,
and tell your flaws. Just
yeah.
like, okay, I'm a great speaker, I think, but I speak three languages, so I can really mess it up with the language that I am now. Because yesterday I was in Germany, today I'm
Mm.
in the Netherlands, and now I'm trying to speak English, something like that, you know. But just to
But
be
you just
honest
embrace
with
it,
you,
right?
yeah.
You
But
see it as an
it's
opportunity because it adds beautiful layers and complexity to you. But and you're right, you talk about like your plays. It's the same as I talk about books. You talk
yeah,
about plays. And it's like that's why there's a big difference between screen actors and actors on stage, right? Because
mm,
actors on stage are really dramatic, aren't they? Whereas actors on screen have to make it look believable. And that's why they're paid so much more money because it is about that
exactly.
authenticity. And actually, we're seeing that come back around. I was just talking to one of my friends who came in for lunch the other day, who's one of the key trainers for like RADA and all the big schools, the acting schools. And he was saying that it's now all about authenticity, even on stage. People are now going to the theatre and they want to see more realistic musicals and theatre on stage. So it's that
Huh,
we crave authenticity. So if not now, when, right? We need to start this and start looking at ourselves and really like, who are you? What
exactly.
makes you you? And how do we start to tell that story?
Huh. Oh, that's
Right?
so great, man. That's great to talk to you, Kay. That's really, I love this. I love this because it's something that I can relate to in the things that I did, and also in the things that I do right now. Because there's so much to learn about just the things that we talked about. Just like we're barely touching the surface, right? We're going to dig deep a little bit into some of these topics, but the thing is, if you look at your posture, basically if you look yourself in the eye in the mirror and you can talk to yourself, okay, hi, I'm Rob, without
Mm,
strange faces, stuff like that. Just be confident to tell your own name. That's the first step.
100%.
Everybody has his name, which even if in a busy street in Manchester or whatever, if I'm gonna shout out, "Hey Kay," that's your name. So maybe other people turn around that have the same name, but you own that one. So why don't you own your own story?
Story. Exactly. It's like your name is your brand, isn't it?
Mm,
And then it's like the narrative that goes with that. And we know when you add a story to any brand, you can tenfold the revenue opportunity. It becomes more valuable. And so do you, right? So you've got your
exactly.
brand, your name. And then when you start to add that narrative to it, it
Mm,
becomes, you become more valuable. Why? Because you have purpose, you have a reason to be, and you're starting to add value to other people's lives through your own stories because
mm.
people can learn, right? It's like me. It's like I've been successful and you can learn from my success. I've also been less successful at times. And you can also
You can
learn
learn
a
from that
lot
too.
from them as well. And both of them, and they're the golden nuggets that I want to
Mm,
give back to people because I want people to be successful.
mm.
I'm the number one fan and cheerleader of all of my friends, family, and clients. And that's it. You it's not competition. You can't compete with me because I want you to win. I want you to win.
Wow.
And let me give you the tools, the resources, the skills, the knowledge to be that. Whatever success looks like for you, that's what's important.
Mm. What is one of the um, brands that you think that think from yourself, wow, they really nailed it with the branding and with the story that they tell?
Oh, that is a good question. So I think there's a couple here that I work with. I would say Apple and Nike, right? But Apple, let's talk about Apple
Mhm.
because, like, they just, yeah, right? It's a lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
not, they don't sell, they do, right? Yeah, okay, they manufacture hardware, but you look at their ads, it's not about, they used to do ads like that. They used to do the sexy phone and glossy. And then when we started talking to them, they actually were like, I'm not taking all the credit for this, right? But they are very good storytellers and they start to lean into the emotion. And that's what it's all about. We're emotive beings. We act on emotion. So
Hmm.
then they actually started to sell that lifestyle based on not just this sexy, glossy phone, but what does that mean for you? How does that change your life by having one of these things, right? How
Uh-huh.
does that improve your life and take your pain away and turn it into pleasure? And that's what
Huh.
it's about. So there, I do think. you know, both Nike and Apple, I get to work with and are extremely good storytellers in that, because it's more about the why
Hmm.
rather than the what. And it's what we're talking about, right? Rather than the what I am, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a female, I'm a whatever. They're just labels.
Hmm.
And step up, if we take the labels away, who am I? What's the why? What's my purpose? What's my why? And
Hmm.
that's what people are compelled. When I start talking about my mission to help heal people and transform their lives, that's when people are like, yeah, love it. Tell me more.
Exactly.
When I start talking about, oh, the business that, like, oh, you know, it's not that, it's not compelling. It's not the same.
No, exactly. And that's something that people should be aware of. There are a lot of people that look completely different to you because of the perspective they have of you. You know, the first thing when you got in a room, that they have just like, I don't know what's it called in English, but when you get in a room, the first
Like
thought or the first impression,
impression. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you could shave your head, have a nice perfume or a nice suit, stuff like that. If somebody had something like, oh my god, another bald haired with a beard, I don't get that. You're done. But if you then speak up to the rest and say, okay, I'm the probably the third one today with a beard and a bald head, but let me tell you my story,
That's
then
it.
all of us, you got it.
Don't judge a book by its cover. That's what they say, isn't
Exactly.
it? That's
Do not
it.
do not read between the lines.
That's it. God, we've got so many book analogies here. And do you know what's so ironic? Because I talk about this, right? Ripping up the rule book. Your life is like a book. You're the author. It's like everything for me is a narrative and a story, because it's like I love story time. When I was
Mm,
little, this is where it all comes from. I love sitting around reading and being told stories, which is like really ironic, right? Because actually, I find reading really difficult. I find I'm dyslexic, and it's something that I've always really struggled with. But I think that this is like going back to that lasting point, which is like doing things in a way that makes sense for you. So now I listen to audiobooks. I found a way that makes sense for me. So I still get to learn and continue, like I pledged to lifelong learning. I still get to do that learning, but
hmm.
just through a different means that makes sense to me authentically.
Exactly. Well, 3 or 4 years back, I was only listening to music. Just like my own music on Spotify and stuff like that. Nowadays, it's just podcasting, just like information or great stories and stuff like that. I can't read a book because my attention span is just like 5 minutes, and then I see a squirrel. Oh, what was that light about? And just got but audiobooks, it's so great. I can drive my car, do my thing with work, and just like, okay, oh, I want to know more about Kay. I'm gonna jump into Spotify. What podcasts are been made with Kay, so I can get into that stuff, or want to get into giants, or want to get into coffee, whatever. And that's it. It's so great because you can do two things at the same time. When you read, you have to sit down and you have to concentrate and stuff like that.
Mm.
That's something that is resonating with me, concentrating and stuff like that. No,
You're
absolutely
more
not.
about theatre, then you have to listen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then you have to sit down and you have to be in the mood, of course. Um, and there's something too, because what you said in the beginning, when you enter a big audience and they
Yeah.
all pumped up, there was a speaker just before that announced you, just like, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, ready to rumble, Kay Munday. And you come on stage like, okay, that you need to be fed up. You need that music pumping in your head, just like, okay, when am I going to get up, go on stage, just like, boy, this is the great song, and then oh, you're on, okay, and then you go for it, and then you're already in that vibe and that frequency. And I think when you speak then the first lines, then it's okay, just like, oh,
I'm glad you were listening, because these were my points earlier, right? Listen to music, get into state, start
exactly.
simple. So I'm glad you've been listening, Rob. It's been great speaking with you.
Yeah, great speaking to you too. And just like we said, it's a long time. It's like 4 years or something like that.
It has, and lots has changed, but
Yeah.
still the same us, right?
Exactly.
Authentically, it's still you, but you might just have a different name.
And for the
You never
people
know.
that listen to the podcast, there's someone shining from the UK here in my screen. That's Kay. She's shining,
Ah,
beautiful woman, and she has a lot of knowledge about what she says about the coaching of people, talking to, you know, talk your story like a storytelling, and international speaker. I mean that's something she's really proud of course. And I got also, I don't want to cut us off, but I got 10 questions for my guests
oh,
always. I
okay.
know you're a little bit prepared, right?
Shoot.
A little bit prepared, right? Let me see, where do we got them? Right here. And they're probably, we can talk for hours, Kate.
We could. I'm sure we could.
Yeah, I know, but probably there's a manager looking just like, Kate, come on, another 5 minutes and wrap it up.
Luckily, we're out of hours, but I will need to go to the bathroom at some point because I've
Okay.
drank a lot of water.
Okay, I got 10 questions for you.
Okay,
What's
sure.
your favorite color?
Yellow, definitely. Sunflower yellow.
Oh, sunflower. Oh, wow.
Sunflower yellow or sunset yellow. Can't decide actually, but yellow.
Mm. Favorite music?
Although sometimes I don't like to admit this, my guilty pleasure is country music.
Oh, oh,
I
I
know.
know.
I like all music, to be fair. Apart from heavy metal, it doesn't really resonate with me. However, country music is my guilty pleasure.
Hmm. What's your favorite movie or series?
See, I don't really watch TV. However, so I'd have to go into movies. I think I'm a sucker for a love story. So I would say Pretty Woman was one of my first favorite films, or Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
Mm,
Oh, but they were more musical, right?
both prostitutes. So I don't know what that says about me. Just realised that common denominator there. But yeah, there we go. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
What's your favorite book?
I would go with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People or Atomic Habits, right? So again, what's
Hmm.
something about habits in
It's
me?
something about habits, right?
That's what makes us who we are, right? Is our habits. So
Exactly.
getting that right is important.
What's your favorite beverage or drink?
Oof. I'd say good cup of tea at the moment.
Good cup of
Maybe
tea.
that's because that's what I
With the
call.
milk in it or without?
Oh, I'm a no milker. I'm
Oh, good.
dairy free.
Well, you're not a baby, right? You don't drink milk.
No, I'm dairy free. 100%.
Good. What's your favorite food, Kay?
Ooh, I'd have to say Thai food.
Spicy?
Yes,
You been to
definitely.
Thailand?
I have. I have. Love Asia.
Wow. What kind of clothing you like to wear the most?
Ooh. My default is anything black, as you can tell, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to get more colorful. Um, but I do love a good new pair of shoes, I'd say. You know, when you wear it, put on a new pair of shoes and it makes you feel good.
But what kind of shoes? Because pair of shoes could be the sneakers or high heels or boots
No,
or
I would say, yeah, boots or trainers.
boots.
Oh, I can't decide. Boots or trainers.
Okay.
Flats.
What's your favorite holiday destination?
I love India as my favorite country in the world. Confirmed this past Christmas where I went out and visited again. I love it.
Love that photo when you were meditating, right? Yeah. But
Thank
we
you.
need that too, right? And with everything we do, when we can be so enthusiastic, sometimes you just need to calm down, sit down, and just enjoy the being of yourself.
Yes, amen.
And then last two questions,
Ooh.
okay. What's your favorite quote?
It has to be that, right? It has to be your life's a book. You are the author. Why not make it a story worth telling or retelling?
And what's your life's motto?
And again, feeding back into what we said, it's like everything and everyone is my teacher. I can learn something from everybody, and I love it. It doesn't matter who you are.
Hmm.
Just love people's stories because I'm constantly like fascinated by the things that people have experienced and done, and that just keeps me learning and growing
Mm.
and bettering myself. So yeah, that's
I
my
had to
mantra.
learn that. I had to learn that, to think not just like I'm superior or something like that. Not stuff like that. But this 8 year old comes to me and she had these strawberries, right? And
Mm.
she came to me and just like she popped them in, and I said, "Hey, what about a green?" She said, "That's vitamin C." I said, "What?" So I looked it up, just like, you mean, what can I eat? Well, I looked it up, just like, oh, you can eat that.
Wow, there you go.
Just like, and just like an apple, the people that have the apple that's going to be thick and then a little bit, and they throw it away.
Yeah,
Nowadays, when I eat the apple, I only have the stick left.
same. I'm a stick person too. Yeah.
Yeah, woo.
I love it. But this is it, right? It's like, surely in life, if I think about the things that I want most, it's like freedom,
Hmm.
love, and expansion. I just want to like grow and learn and expand. And the only way I'm going to do that is with others. We can't do that on our own.
No, no, and
We
that's something that really resonated with me when Brian Rose said it on the Business Accelerator. You can go far by yourself, but you go much farther with the right people. And I'm still finding them. And I still have now a few people around me. And the most of the things I do by myself, which is quite handleable, takes a lot of time, but it gives me so much energy. So that's, you know,
yeah.
it's no question about it. But you will find the people that are having the same passion with the same mindset, and you have to be very honest and very clear with your communication towards them. What's happening, what's your next step, what's your vision, all that stuff, what's your mission. I
Right.
want to help people. How you want to help people? Well, I want to help people with getting the stuff done, stuff like that.
And that's
And
it.
you got to keep on doing the things even when it takes more time, but don't stop while you're doing it, no matter what. That's one of my things that I'm never going to do. I'm never going to
Keep
stop doing
going.
the things because you just.
Keep going. That's it. It's doing a little bit each day makes the difference. And doing the hard things, like we've talked about, makes all the difference. And like you said, it's like, how do we bring people on that journey? And how do we keep growing and learning? I'm glad we come full circle with this, but it's communication.
Mm, mm.
So thank you so much. I'm so
Okay,
grateful. So
thank
lovely to
you.
speak to you.
Yeah,
Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
thank you very much. Same to you, Kay. I'm going to put your links in the show description so people can look you up.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for hopping on my podcast. And I gotta adjust my camera because it's really strange how I look to, because when I look here, I see this the lights popping on my, and I can't see you because I'm looking in the camera. So, but that's a different
We'll
story.
sort
That's a
that.
different story. Thank you very much. We're going to keep in contact as soon as I have it edited and put it on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the stuff. I'm going to send you a link, and I wish you a brilliant weekend, Kay.
Thank you so much. So lovely to see you. Enjoy your weekend.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye. Running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. I'm running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. I've been running for all my life.
with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight.